The great chamber of Nexus Prime Station buzzed with voices from across the galaxy. Alien delegates filled their seats, speaking in languages that clicked, whistled, and hummed. At the far end of the room, 3 humans sat at a small table. They looked tiny compared to the massive aliens around them. Ambassador Kang Dae-ho straightened his black suit jacket and checked his watch. The meeting had been going on for 6 hours. 6 hours of the same old story. The Galactic Council wanted humanity to give up more worlds, more freedom, more rights. Today would be different, though. Today, everything would change. Dr. Park Hye-jin sat next to him, her tablet showing data about alien biology. She had spent 20 years studying every species in the Council. The aliens thought she was just a curious scientist. They had no idea how much she really knew about their weaknesses. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen, sending coded messages to human agents across the galaxy. Captain Lee Woo-jin wore his dress uniform with pride. The aliens saw the simple blue fabric and basic metals. They did not know that hidden in his jacket was technology that could level a city. His neural implant buzzed softly. A message appeared in his mind. All units ready. Lazarus protocol active. Awaiting your signal. The council speaker, a tall gray alien called Velthari, stood at the center podium. Its long neck stretched as it spoke. The human colonies have grown too large. Your species spreads too fast. The council has decided that humans must abandon all worlds beyond your home system within 1 year. Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber. The bug-like Threx clicked their approval. The crystal beings called Jek made musical sounds of joy. The fish-like Velnari waved their fins happily. They all thought this was fair. They all thought humans would just accept it like they always did. Kang Dae-ho had heard enough. For 80 years, humanity had played the good student. They took orders, followed rules, and said thank you for scraps. They pretended to be weak and grateful. But behind the scenes, humans had been very busy. "Excuse me," Kang said, standing up slowly. His voice was calm and clear. The chamber grew quiet. "The United Earth government has an answer to your proposal." Velthari's black eyes stared down at him. "Of course, human. We expect your compliance as always." Kang smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Actually, we decline." The word hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Decline? Humans never declined. They never said no. They never refused the Council's wisdom. "You misunderstand," Velthari said, its voice getting louder. "This is not a request. This is an order from the Galactic Council." "We understand perfectly," Dr. Park said, closing her tablet with a soft click. "We also formally withdraw from the Galactic Council, effective immediately." The chamber erupted. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. The Threx Queen buzzed angrily about human arrogance. A Velnari admiral threatened orbital bombardment. The Jek played discordant notes that hurt human ears. Through all the noise, Captain Lee received another message. Every human on Nexus Prime was moving to the docking bays. Merchants, workers, tourists, diplomats, they all walked calmly toward their ships. The evacuation had started 3 days ago. The aliens were too busy arguing to notice. "You cannot withdraw!" Velthari screamed. "No species leaves the Council! You need us! You are primitive! You are weak!" Kang looked around the chamber at faces full of rage and disbelief. These aliens had controlled the galaxy for thousands of years. They decided who could build what, who could go where, who could learn what. They kept everyone weak and dependent. Everyone except humans. "For 80 years, we have been grateful students," Kang said, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "We have followed your rules. We have accepted your limits. We have pretended that your technology impressed us." The aliens fell silent. Something in his tone made them nervous. "Today, that performance ends," Kang continued. "All human colonies, trade routes, and territories are now under exclusive human control. Any attempts to violate our sovereignty will be met with appropriate response. Response? A Velnari general laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. What response? You have no weapons, we fear. Your ships are scrap metal. Your defenses are children's toys. Captain Lee stood up and straightened his jacket. You are welcome to test that theory. The threat was clear, but the aliens found it funny. Humans threatening them? Impossible. They had kept humans weak for 8 decades. They knew exactly what humanity could and could not do. Velthari spread its arms wide. The Council will send fleets to every human world. We will burn your colonies. We will destroy your ships. We will remind you why you need our protection. Good luck with that, Dr. Park said, gathering her things. As the 3 humans walked toward the exit, the chamber filled with angry voices planning humanity's destruction. Fleet commanders discussed which worlds to hit first. Generals argued about how many ships they would need. Scientists talked about new weapons to test on human targets. None of them noticed that every human civilian had already left the station. None of them saw the small devices that Dr. Park had been placing around the chamber during the meeting. None of them realized that Captain Lee's dress uniform was actually advanced armor that could stop their best weapons. At the exit, Kang turned back one last time. Oh, and Council, when your fleets reach our worlds, please remember that you asked for this. The heavy doors closed behind them. Inside the chamber, aliens celebrated their coming victory over the arrogant humans. They made plans to divide up human territory. They discussed which species would get which human colonies. They had no idea that they had just signed their own death warrant. On the docking bay, the last human transport was waiting. As they walked aboard, Captain Lee checked his implant one more time. Every human agent was in position. Every hidden base was ready. Every secret weapon was armed. For 80 years, humanity had worn masks. They pretended to be weak, grateful, and dependent. They let the aliens believe they were in control. But while the Council thought they were teaching humans, humans were learning everything about them. Now the masks were coming off. The transport undocked from Nexus Prime and jumped to hyperspace. Behind them, the aliens continued their celebrations, planning the easy conquest of humanity. They were about to learn why that was a very bad idea. 3 days after humanity left the Council, the first alien fleet arrived at Kepler 442b. The humans called this world New Gyeongju. It was supposed to be a simple farming planet where humans grew food for their colonies. Fleet Commander Zathkol of the Velnari Navy expected to find scared farmers begging for mercy. His flagship, the Tidebreaker, dropped out of hyperspace with 50 other warships. The fleet was large enough to destroy any human settlement. Zathkol had fought in dozens of wars. He knew what weak defenses looked like. He was ready to teach humanity a lesson they would never forget. But something was wrong. His sensors showed the planet's orbital platforms, but the power readings made no sense. The energy signatures were impossibly high. Human technology was not supposed to be this advanced. Are the sensors broken? He asked his science officer. No, sir, the officer replied, checking the readings again. These platforms are generating more power than our entire fleet. Zathkol laughed. Impossible. Humans barely understand basic fusion. Target those platforms and fire. On the planet below, Kim Min-seok stood in the colony's command center. He was supposed to be just a simple administrator who managed farms and food production. The aliens had no idea that he was actually a former military general who had been planning for this day for 20 years. Sir, his aide said, the alien fleet is powering weapons. Perfect timing, Kim replied, touching a control panel. Address, all colonists. It's time for the big reveal. Across New Gyeongju, screens flickered to life in homes, schools, and work centers. Kim's face appeared, but he looked different now. Gone was the humble farmer's expression. In its place was the cold smile of a trained killer. My fellow humans, he began. For 80 years, we have played a role. We pretended to be simple farmers who grew food for our people. We acted grateful when the council allowed us to settle this world. We thanked them for their wisdom and guidance. He paused, looking directly into the camera. Today, that performance ends. Above the planet, Zathkol's fleet opened fire. Massive energy beams lanced toward the orbital platforms. The weapons could crack continents and boil oceans. They should have turned the human defenses into vapor. Instead, something impossible happened. The beams hit barriers of pure energy that surrounded each platform. The alien weapons, which could destroy cities, were absorbed like raindrops hitting the ocean. The platforms did not even shake. What? Zathkol stared at his screens. How are they doing that? His answer came in the form of return fire. The human platforms unleashed weapons that did not just destroy ships, they unmade them. The first Velnari cruiser hit by the beam simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, not vaporized, just gone. Where a kilometer-long warship had been, there was now empty space. In the colony's hidden command center, Dr. Yoon Sora watched the battle with satisfaction. For 20 years, she had pretended to be an agricultural scientist. The aliens thought she studied better ways to grow vegetables. They had no idea that her crop research was actually advanced weapons development. The molecular disintegration beams are working perfectly, she reported to Kim. We're not even using full power. Around them, technicians monitored systems that should not exist. Quantum computers disguised as irrigation controllers managed the planet's true defenses. Manufacturing centers hidden beneath grain silos produced weapons that were decades ahead of anything the Council had ever seen. Sir, a technician called out, the aliens are calling for reinforcements. Let them come, Kim replied. It's time they learned what we really are. The truth was spreading across the galaxy faster than the Council could contain it. Every human world that came under attack revealed the same shocking reality. Primitive colonies turned out to be fortress worlds. Simple mining operations were actually massive shipyards. Agricultural research stations were weapons laboratories. Captain Jang Tai-sung had spent 40 years pretending to be a humble cargo hauler. His ship, the Peaceful Trader, had visited every major council world carrying grain and manufactured goods. The aliens saw an old freighter captain trying to make an honest living. They did not see the spy who had mapped every defense network in council space. Now, as his ship dropped its disguise and revealed itself as a dreadnought-class warship, Jang opened a channel to all council frequencies. Attention council forces. His voice carried across dozens of star systems. This is Captain Jang Tae-sung of the United Earth Navy. For 40 years I have been watching you. I have studied your tactics, your weapons, your weaknesses. I know exactly how you think and how you fight. His ship's weapons, hidden for decades behind false hull plating, tracked onto a nearby Velnari patrol fleet. You are outmatched, outgunned, and outnumbered. This is your only warning. Withdraw from human space or be destroyed. The Velnari commander responded with contempt. One human ship against our entire fleet? You are insane. One ship. Yang smiled. Look around you. Across the system, space itself seemed to ripple. Dozens of human vessels decloaked, dropping stealth fields that had hidden them for hours. Each one was larger and more advanced than anything in the Council's arsenal. They had been waiting, watching, preparing for this moment. The Velnari fleet opened fire immediately. Their plasma cannons and particle beams lit up space with deadly energy. The human ships should have been torn apart by the concentrated firepower. Instead, the weapons barely scratched their shields. Impossible, the Velnari commander whispered. No one has technology this advanced. You kept us in a box, Jang's voice was cold as space. You told us what we could research, what we could build, where we could go. You thought we were grateful for your guidance." The human ships returned fire. Their weapons were not flashy like Council technology. They were precise, efficient, and absolutely devastating. Each shot disabled a Council ship without destroying it completely. The humans were making a point. They could have wiped out the entire fleet instantly, but they chose to show mercy. "We were never grateful," Jang continued as the Council ships drifted helplessly. "We were gathering intelligence. Every trade route you gave us access to, we mapped your defenses. Every research exchange you allowed, we learned your weaknesses. Every cultural mission you permitted, we placed our agents." Back on New Gyeongju, the second wave of Council reinforcements arrived to find the First Fleet's wreckage scattered across space. 50 Velnari warships had been reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Only one ship remained intact, a communications vessel that the humans had deliberately spared. Dr. Yoon stood in what the aliens had believed was a vegetable processing plant. Around her, advanced manufacturing systems worked at full capacity. In just 3 days, they had produced enough weapons to outfit a dozen fleets. The aliens had no idea that every primitive human colony was actually an industrial powerhouse. "Send a message to the Council," Kim ordered the surviving alien ship. "Tell them what you've seen here. Tell them that every human world is like this one. Tell them that we are not the species they thought we were." The alien captain's voice shook as he responded. "What are you?" Kim's smile was sharp as a blade. "We are humanity, and we are done pretending to be weak." The message beacon launched from New Gyeongju carried more than words. It contained detailed sensor readings of human technology in action. It showed weapons that violated known physics, defenses that made mockery of Council firepower, and industrial capacity that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen. As the beacon spread its message across Council space, a single word echoed in the minds of every alien commander: impossible. But impossible had just become reality. Humanity was no longer hiding. 6 months into the war, panic spread through every Council world like a disease. What had started as a simple punishment mission against rebellious humans had become a nightmare. Every human colony attacked turned out to be a fortress. Every human ship encountered was more advanced than Council technology. The mighty Galactic Council was losing badly to the species they had considered weakest. On Citadel Station, the Council's greatest military headquarters, Admiral Choi Nam-gil stood before a wall of screens showing the war's progress. For 30 years, he had pretended to be a simple liaison officer, attending Council meetings and taking notes. The aliens thought he was there to learn from their superior military wisdom. They never suspected he was actually studying them. "Open all channels," he ordered his communications officer. "Every Council world, every Council ship, every Council station. It's time they understood who they're really fighting." His message began broadcasting across 1,000 star systems. "This is Admiral Choi Nam-gil of the United Earth Navy. You have asked who we really are. You have demanded to know how we became so powerful. Today, I will answer those questions." The broadcast shifted to show human fleets emerging from jump points across Council space. Ships that were impossibly large, bristling with weapons that made Council technology look like children's toys. Leading them was the UES Indomitable, a vessel so massive it could carry entire cities within its hull. "We are the species that turned a single star system into an industrial powerhouse while you weren't looking," Choi continued. "We are the descendants of creatures who fought each other for millions of years before we reached the stars. Every war we fought taught us something new. Every battle made us stronger." On the bridge of the Indomitable, Fleet Admiral Seo Kyung-min watched Council defenders scramble to respond to her fleet's appearance. For decades, she had played the role of a humble exploration commander, mapping star systems and studying cosmic phenomena. The Council had praised her peaceful nature and scientific curiosity. They had no idea she was actually mapping their defenses and finding their weaknesses. "Begin the demonstration," she ordered. The human fleet spread out in perfect formation. Each ship was larger than anything the Council had ever built, but they moved with impossible grace. Their engines left no exhaust trails, their hulls reflected no light, their very presence seemed to bend space itself. The local Council defense, fleet, commanded by a proud Jek crystal being, moved to intercept. 200 ships against 50 humans. The Jek commander was confident in victory. His vessels carried the finest weapons the Council could produce. The human ships opened fire. What happened next broke every law of physics the Council thought. They understood. The human weapons did not fire energy beams or projectiles. Instead, they manipulated reality itself. Gravity fields crushed Council ships like paper. Time distortions caused vessels to age centuries in seconds. Matter converters turned solid hull plating into harmless gas. Within minutes, the entire Council fleet was gone. Not destroyed in explosions or fires, but simply removed from existence. Dr. Bang Hana, who had spent decades pretending to be a simple cultural attaché, now stood before the Council's greatest scientists at their emergency meeting on Nexus Prime. She looked exactly the same, small, humble, eager to learn from alien wisdom. But her words sent chills through every being in the room. "You want to understand our technology?" she asked, her voice sweet as poison. "Let me explain what we've actually been doing for the past 80 years. She activated a holographic display that showed technologies the Council considered impossible. Faster-than-light communication systems that connected every human world instantly, matter conversion devices that could turn rocks into starships, artificial gravity generators that made planets dance like toys. Quantum tunneling drives, she said, pointing to ship designs that hurt alien minds to look at. "We don't move through space. We convince space to move around us. Energy shields that exist in 11 dimensions. Weapons that fire compressed black holes. And this is just what we're willing to show you." A Threx scientist clicked frantically. "Impossible! These violate fundamental laws." "Your laws," Dr. Bang replied. "We discovered new ones. While you were teaching us basic fusion, we were learning to manipulate the quantum foam that underlies reality. While you were showing us simple computers, we were building machines that think with quantum consciousness." The alien scientists stared in horror at the implications. If humans had this technology, what else were they hiding? On Earth, Ryu Junho stood in the command center of the Sol Defense Consortium. For his entire career, aliens had visited the human home system and praised their adequate defenses. They saw orbital platforms that looked appropriately primitive, sensor networks that seemed reasonably effective, and weapon systems that appeared sufficient for a young species. It was all a lie. "Activate Protocol Omega," he ordered. Across the Sol system, humanity's true defenses came online. The simple orbital platforms revealed themselves as fortress stations capable of destroying entire fleets. The basic sensor network expanded to cover dozens of nearby star systems. Hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt began launching vessels that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Every time you told us our defenses were sufficient," Ryu said into his broadcast pickup, "we built better ones. Every time you said our ships were adequate, we designed deadlier ones. Every limitation you placed on us became our baseline to exceed." The display showed the Sol system as it truly was. Not the simple star system the Council believed, but a fortress that could hold off the entire galaxy. Weapon platforms hidden in every asteroid, shield generators buried in every moon, sensor arrays disguised as space debris. "You want to know our secret?" Ryu asked the galaxy. "We never stopped fighting. While you played politics and enjoyed peace, we continued the war that made us what we are, not against each other anymore, but against limitation itself." Admiral Seo watched from her flagship as Council reinforcements arrived at system after system, only to find human forces waiting for them. The aliens came expecting to fight primitive humans with basic technology. Instead, They found weapons that turned their own ships against them, defenses that made their attacks useless, and tactics that predicted their every move. "You kept us in a box for 80 years, she broadcast to every council world. "You told us what we could research, what we could build, where we could go. You thought we were grateful for your guidance. You thought we needed your protection." Her fleet demonstrated the truth by casually destroying a massive council battle station. The structure that had taken decades to build and could house millions of beings was simply erased from existence by a single human weapon. "We were never grateful," CO continued. "We were planning. Every treaty you made us sign, we found loopholes. Every restriction you placed on us, we worked around. Every technology you denied us, we invented something better." The truth spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Humanity was not the young, primitive species the Council had believed. They were ancient warriors who had been pretending to be weak, while building an empire in secret. Every human world was a fortress. Every human ship was a weapon. Every human citizen was a soldier in a war the Council never knew was being fought. As the reports came in from across Council space, a terrible realization dawned on the alien leaders. They had not been containing humanity for 80 years. Humanity had been containing them. The Council's desperation grew with each passing day. Their fleets were being destroyed faster than they could build new ones. Their technology was useless against human weapons. Their greatest military minds could not understand how they were losing so badly to a species they had considered primitive. In the emergency session on Nexus Prime, the remaining Council leaders made their most terrible decision. If they could not defeat humanity through military force, they would use something far worse. "We have no choice," Velthari announced to the assembled aliens. "The humans are too strong. Their technology is beyond our understanding. But they are still biological beings. They can still die." The plan was simple and horrifying. Council scientists had spent decades studying human biology during cultural exchanges. They had genetic samples, medical records, and detailed knowledge of human physiology. They would create a plague designed specifically to kill humans through their genetic markers. Dr. Cathara, the Council's chief biological warfare specialist, worked for 72 hours straight to complete the weapon. The virus was perfect. It would target only human DNA, leaving other species untouched. It would spread quickly, kill painfully, and show the galaxy what happened to species that defied the Council. "Test it on one of their smaller colonies," Velthari ordered. "New Busan. 30,000 humans live there. When they are all dead, we will broadcast the footage to every human world. They will surrender or watch their entire species die. The plague was deployed by stealth ships that slipped past human defenses using new technology. The virus was released into New Busan's atmosphere during the night cycle when most humans were asleep. It was designed to be undetectable until it was too late." The plague worked exactly as intended. Kim Hana was a teacher on New Busan. She woke up with a fever and thought she had caught a simple cold. By the afternoon, she could barely breathe. By evening, she was dead. Her students died the same way. Their parents died the same way. The plague spread through the colony like fire through dry grass. Within 3 days, 30,000 humans were dead. General Wan Sang-hyuk received the casualty reports in his flagship's war room. He had spent 40 years fighting in humanities, secret wars, preparing for the day when the masks would come off. He had seen battle, death, and the worst that the galaxy could offer, but nothing had prepared him for this. "Sir," his aide said quietly, "the Council is broadcasting footage of the dead. They're demanding our surrender." One looked at the screens showing images of New Busan. Children dead in their beds, families who died holding each other, teachers, farmers, engineers, artists, all of them killed by alien hatred. How many did we lose? He asked. 30,000 confirmed dead, no survivors. One closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them again, his expression was carved from stone. "Signal all fleet commanders. Signal all intelligence assets. Signal every human agent in Council space. Sir, activate the Omega Protocols." The Sate. Omega Protocols were humanity's final option. For 80 years, while pretending to be weak, humans had been preparing for the possibility that the aliens might try to exterminate them. They had studied every Council species, mapped their genetics, learned their biology, and prepared weapons that could end entire civilizations. Dr. Lim Yu-jin had spent her career as a xenobiology researcher, studying alien life forms with apparent scientific curiosity. The Council scientists had been happy to share their knowledge with the eager human researcher. They showed her genetic databases, biological samples, and detailed physiological studies of every Council species. They thought they were teaching her about the diversity of galactic life. Actually, she was learning how to kill them. "Begin Phase 1, one ordered. Across the galaxy, human ships appeared in Council space carrying weapons that should not exist. These were not the advanced but conventional weapons humans had shown before. These were devices that manipulated life itself. The first target was the Velnari homeworld of Veltar, the planet where the biological weapon had been created, where the order to use it had been given. 3 human ships dropped out of hyperspace and launched a single projectile toward the planet. It was not a bomb or missile. It was a virus. Within hours, every Velnari on the planet began to die. Not from disease or injury, but from their own biology turning against them. The virus was designed specifically for Velnari genetics. It convinced their cells that they were foreign invaders that needed to be destroyed. 2 billion Velnari died in agony over 3 days. But that was just the beginning. Captain Park Dong-min commanded the intelligence ship that had spent decades mapping Threk's biology. The Threks were proud of their hive mind, their perfect coordination, their biological unity. They thought it made them strong. It made them vulnerable. "Deploy the neural disruptor," Park ordered. The weapon was beautiful in its simplicity. Instead of attacking Threk's bodies, it attacked their shared consciousness. The virus spread through their mental links, causing confusion, then madness, then death. Entire hive worlds fell silent as billions of insectoid minds simply stopped thinking. The Jek crystal beings had always believed their crystalline biology made them superior to organic life. They had no disease, no aging, no biological weakness. They were living minerals that had achieved consciousness. Dr. Lim had studied their structure for decades. She knew exactly how their crystal matrices maintained coherence. More importantly, she knew how to disrupt that coherence. The sonic weapon was deployed near the Jek core worlds. It was not loud. In fact, it was almost silent. But it vibrated at exactly the frequency that caused Jek crystal structures to resonate. The beings who had lived for thousands of years shattered like glass in an earthquake. Admiral Kim Soo-jin watched from her command ship as species that had existed for millions of years were wiped out in days. There was no glory in it, no satisfaction. It was simply necessary. "Broadcast on all Council frequencies," she ordered. Her message reached every surviving alien world simultaneously. "This is Admiral Kim Soo-jin of the United Earth Navy. You used biological weapons against our people. You killed 30,000 innocent humans to make a point. This is our response." The images that followed showed the devastation. Veltar, once home to billions, was now a tomb world. The Threk's hive world sat silent, their populations dead. The Jek crystal cities were fields of broken glass. "You studied our genetics to build your plague," the Admiral continued. "We studied yours for 70 years while pretending to be interested in cultural exchange. Every sample you gave us, every biological database you shared, every genetic sequence you proudly displayed, we cataloged all of it. More worlds died as the message played. The gas giant cities of the Nethari collapsed as gravity manipulation turned their homes into crushing prisons. The machine-integrated Cortex found their cybernetic implants turning against their organic components. Every cultural exchange program was a spy mission, Admiral Kim said. Every trade negotiation was reconnaissance. Every scientific collaboration was us learning your weaknesses. You thought you were teaching primitive humans. You were training your own executioners. The scale of humanity's deception was staggering. For 8 decades, every interaction between humans and aliens had been carefully planned intelligence gathering. Every treaty had hidden clauses. Every agreement had secret purposes. Every human diplomat, scientist, trader, and tourist had been an agent gathering information for this day. Species that had taken millions of years to evolve were extinct within a week. The Council, which had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, was reduced to a few scattered survivors hiding in the deepest corners of space. As Council space burned with the fires of extinction, one final message went out to the galaxy's few remaining species. It came from every human ship, every human world, every human station. This is what happens when you mistake patience for weakness, when you confuse diplomacy for cowardice, when you use our mercy as a sign that we cannot be merciless. Humanity offered peace. You chose war. These are the consequences. The war was over. The Council was dead. And humanity's true nature was finally revealed to a galaxy that would never again make the mistake of thinking humans were weak. 2 years after the Council's extinction, the galaxy had learned to live under new management. The great station that had once been called Nexus Prime was now New Sol Station. The chamber where humans had once begged for scraps now housed the offices of human administrators who divided up the remains of Council space. President Lee Hyo-sung stood at the center of the rebuilt Council chamber, but the atmosphere was completely different now. Where once alien delegates had sneered at human weakness, now the surviving species of the galaxy listened with respectful attention. The few aliens present were not rulers but representatives of species wise enough to surrender when the war began. "We are not conquerors," she announced to the assembled delegates. "We are liberators. The Council's system of rigid castes, technological restrictions, and enforced weakness ends today." The surviving aliens listened carefully. They had seen what happened to species that opposed humanity. The Velnari, Threx, Zhek, and dozens of other Council species were extinct. Their worlds were empty, their cities silent, their civilizations erased from history. Secretary of Galactic Affairs Shin Bo-Ra outlined humanity's new order. It was surprisingly simple. Species could develop as they chose, trade freely, explore without permission. The only requirements were basic. No species could restrict another's development, no military force could be used for conquest, and any attempt to recreate the Council's authoritarian structure would result in immediate correction. The Council kept everyone weak to maintain their power, she explained to the gathered aliens. "We make everyone strong because strong partners are better than terrified subjects." The proof of humanity's words could be seen across the galaxy. Worlds that had been poisoned by Council industrial policies were being restored by human technology. Species that had been locked in technological stagnation for thousands of years were being taught principles that could advance them by centuries. Dr. Oh Sang-min, now Director of Galactic Scientific Development, demonstrated the reality of human generosity. In his laboratories, alien scientists worked alongside humans to develop technologies that the Council had forbidden. Faster-than-light travel, matter conversion, energy manipulation, all the secrets that the Council had hoarded were being shared freely. "Every species has the right to reach their full potential," he said, watching a young Altarian scientist successfully complete her first quantum computation experiment. "The Council denied you that right to keep you dependent. We restore it, because diversity makes us all stronger." The transformation was remarkable. Trade routes that had once taken months to complete now finished in days through human-built jump gates. Communication networks spanned the galaxy in real time using quantum entanglement technology. Worlds that had lived in scarcity for generations now prospered through access to advanced manufacturing systems. But humanity's mercy had limits, and they demonstrated this when necessary. The surviving Velnari refugees had established a hidden colony in the Outer Rim, far from human patrols. They still dreamed of rebuilding their empire, of returning to the days when they ruled dozens of worlds. Admiral Cho Min-jung received intelligence about their activities 3 months after the new order was established. "They're building a fleet," her intelligence officer reported. "Small ships, but armed. They're planning to attack human trade, routes, and blame it on pirates." Admiral Cho looked at the report with mild disappointment. The Velnari had been one of the Council's most aggressive species. They had advocated for harsh measures against humanity and had personally overseen the biological weapon program that killed 30,000 humans on New Busan. "Send the usual warning," she ordered. The message was simple and direct. "Attention, Velnari survivors. You are in violation of the military restriction accords. Disarm immediately or face correction." The Velnari response was predictable. They accused humans of tyranny, demanded their right to self-defense, and declared their intention to fight for their freedom. Their hidden fleet launched toward human space, determined to strike a blow against their oppressors. They never reached their target. Admiral Cho did not send a fleet to stop them. She did not dispatch troops or order bombardments. Instead, she simply marked their location on her tactical display and pressed a single button. The Velnari fleet and their hidden base simply stopped existing. Not destroyed in explosions or consumed by fire, but erased from reality as if they had never been. Space itself forgot they had ever been there. "We said no militarism," Admiral Cho announced to the galaxy. "We meant it." The message was clear. To every species, humanity's tolerance for aggression was exactly zero. They would share their technology, help with development, and treat other species as equals. But any attempt to return to the old ways of conquest and domination would be met with absolute annihilation. Most species adapted quickly to this new reality. The Mendari, who had been oppressed by the Council for centuries, embraced human technology and used it to terraform barren worlds into gardens. The Kelvani, former Council slaves, established free colonies and began developing their own advanced sciences. Engineer Park Taemin worked with Altairian technicians to build massive orbital habitats that could house billions of beings in comfort. "The Council told you that resources were limited," he explained as they watched construction robots assemble living spaces from converted asteroids. "They lied. With proper technology, any star system can support infinite growth." The improvements were not just technological. Dr. Yoon Seo-jin, now head of the Department of Biological Enhancement, worked with alien physicians to cure diseases that had plagued species for millennia. Genetic conditions that had been considered incurable were eliminated. Lifespans that had been measured in decades were extended to centuries. "The Council kept medical knowledge restricted to maintain social control," she said, watching a young Mendari child take her first steps after treatment for a degenerative condition. "They let millions suffer to preserve their power structure. We share knowledge because healing serves everyone." But perhaps the most important change was psychological. Species that had lived in fear of Council judgment for thousands of years were learning to think freely. Scientists pursued dangerous research without permission. Artists created works that challenged authority. Philosophers questioned fundamental assumptions about society and government. Captain Yang Tai-sung, now Admiral of the Human Merchant Marine, watched new civilizations bloom across former Council space. "The aliens thought order meant control," he observed. "They confused stability with stagnation. True order comes from justice, not oppression." As the galaxy settled into its new reality, humanity's true nature became clear. They were not the vengeful gods that the Council's destruction had suggested, nor were they the weak species the Council had believed them to be. They were builders of a new order, one where strength served protection, technology served prosperity, and the greatest crime was preventing others from reaching their potential. The transformation was not without challenges. Some species struggled to adapt to freedom after millennia of control. Others found the responsibility of self-governance difficult after generations of having decisions made for them. But human advisors worked patiently with each world, helping them find their own path forward. President Lee stood in her office aboard New Seoul Station, looking out at the busy docking bays where ships from dozens of species came and went freely. Trade flowed without restriction. Knowledge was shared without fear, and growth happened without permission. The Council ruled through fear, she said to her aide. They convinced everyone that chaos would result if their control was removed. Instead, we have prosperity, peace, and progress. Her aide nodded, reviewing reports from across the galaxy. The latest surveys show technological advancement rates 50 times higher than during Council rule. Population growth is accelerating on every inhabited world. Crime rates are at historic lows. Because people who are free to grow don't need to steal from others, Lee replied. Because species that control their own destiny don't need to conquer their neighbors. The Council's greatest lie was that their oppression was necessary for order. As the second anniversary of liberation approached, the galaxy prepared for celebration. Not of war or conquest, but of freedom itself. On every world, beings of different species worked together on projects that would have been impossible under Council rule. The Council had been wrong about everything. They had believed that diversity led to conflict, that freedom led to chaos, that strength could only come through domination. Humanity had proven the opposite. The galaxy was stronger when every species could reach its potential. Order was more stable when it came from justice rather than fear. And the greatest strength of all was knowing that no one would ever again have to beg for permission to exist. The Council had pushed too far, and in their destruction, they had freed a galaxy they never realized they had imprisoned.